The alarm went off at 6 in the morning like it always does, starting our day. Jessica, my wife, and I got up from bed, not really wanting to, as the morning sun came in. I couldn't help but groan, feeling really tired as I sat up and put my feet on the floor. "Why do you sound so old?" Jessica joked, heading to the bathroom. "After last night, I feel like I am," I joked back, thinking about how fun last night was. She always made things exciting. Today was the start of Jessica's work trip, which meant I was on my own for a week. I wasn't exactly thrilled about it. As I heard the shower running, I thought about joining her but decided not to. I was still feeling the effects of last night and needed a bit more time to myself. Jessica came back into the bedroom full of energy, making my slow pace seem even slower. "Get up, lazy bones, it's time to get moving. We have bills to pay," she said, giving me a playful push. Okay, I'm up," I replied, slowly making my way to the bathroom for a wake-up call. After getting ready, we both had breakfast together before going our separate ways. Jessica to the airport and me to my job. We both work at a manufacturing company in St. Louis. Jessica's a lawyer specializing in negotiations, often traveling for work like her current trip to Denver to discuss a new deal with an aerospace company. These business trips happen a few times a year and last about a week each time. Jessica, 35, finished law school at the State University 12 years ago. She's pretty noticeable, about 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs around 125 pounds, and has a figure that's 34-24-35. Jessica charmed me completely from the start. My name is John Baker, and I work as an engineer where Jessica is a lawyer. At 37 years old, I'm 6 feet 1 inch tall and keep fit with regular exercise. Jessica and I love golf and often play in foursomes with friends. Our romance kicked off at a company picnic, and it was love at first sight for me. Just 6 months later, we were married. Now, 7 years into our marriage, we've just bought the house of our dreams with plans to grow our family there. Jessica's aiming to be a stay-at-home mom once we have kids, a dream supported by our parents living close by. She's planning to stop taking her birth control pills after this business trip. This morning, after breakfast, I helped Jessica pack her car for her trip and said goodbye with a kiss, noticing the tears in her eyes as she got into the driver's seat. "I hope we won't have to say goodbye like this much longer," I said, feeling hopeful about our future together. "I can't wait for the trips to stop," she expressed her dislike for parting ways. "I dread these farewells as much as you," I comforted her. "Let's make Friday night easy with some delivery food so you can relax," I suggested. "That sounds perfect. See you then," she said before she took off. I watched her car until it was out of sight, then went back inside to get ready for work. At the office, after picking up a coffee, I went straight to my desk. That's when my phone rang. "This is Baker," I picked up. "Hey John, can you come to my office?" Hubert requested from the other line. "Of course, I'm on my way," I responded. I answered, taking my coffee with me to see my boss. Upon arrival, he invited me to sit. He mentioned, "John, there's an opportunity you might find interesting." Remembering you said Jessica would be away, it crossed my mind. Our technician in California, Gerald Carter, is sick and can't address an issue with a client in San Jose. Considering you're well versed with the equipment in question, would you consider resolving the matter in San Jose? Currently, I don't have much here, and with Jessica not around, I'm available. So, how soon do they need me? Immediately, he replied. Lucy will sort out your travel plans. Please inform the client about your visit and discuss the problem in detail. Okay, I'm on it now, I said, suddenly feeling pumped about the trip. I'll go home to pack and take a flight out this afternoon. That way, I can be at the client's place first thing tomorrow. Alright, have a good trip, Hubert said, wrapping up our talk. I stopped by Lucy's desk to let her know about my travel needs, then called the client from my desk to get more details on their issue. After that, I was off home to pack. Driving home, I couldn't help but smile, thinking about a quick idea. If I finished up early, I could drop by Denver and surprise Jessica. The thought of seeing her unexpectedly in Denver made me even more excited about the trip. Waiting at the airport for my flight, I tried to reach Jessica on her cell but got no response. I left a message for her, saying I'd be at my parents' place for a few days and she could call my cell phone in the evenings. Everything went smoothly. By Tuesday afternoon, I had fixed the issue for our customer and got their equipment working perfectly. I quickly booked a flight to Denver, planning to arrive there by 9 p.m. Mountain Time. I checked out of my hotel in San Jose and headed to the San Francisco airport, where I had dinner before my flight. While eating, Jessica called me, and we talked for a short while. She asked about my parents, and I played along as if I were actually with them. Jessica said the negotiations were moving forward but mentioned she was really tired and planned to just relax in her hotel room that evening. After we said we loved each other, we hung up. After dinner, I got on my flight and reached Jessica's fancy hotel around 9:45 p.m. The hotel staff checked who I was and then gave me a key card to get into her suite. When I went in quietly, I saw a lamp on over the desk with her laptop shut. but Jessica was nowhere in sight. I put down my suitcase and looked in the bedroom and bathroom, but both were empty. I was a bit confused at first, thinking maybe Jessica hadn't come back to her room yet. I couldn't decide if I should wait for her in the room or go look for her in the hotel lounge. Then, I noticed the door to the next room was slightly open. I went over and pushed the door open without making a sound. I looked into the living room of the suite next door, which was also empty. Curious, I walked in, but then I heard a noise from the bedroom that made me jump. Feeling sick to my stomach and breaking into a cold sweat, I quietly moved closer to the bedroom door. When I looked inside the dimly lit room, my breath stopped short. Jessica was there, without any clothes on, and some guy I didn't know was lying on the bed, his face hidden from me. I really wanted to burst in and confront Jessica, to let out all my anger on the guy on the bed. But I managed to calm down the flood of feelings inside me, stepping back to Jessica's suite instead. I grabbed the digital camera I'd brought to take pictures on the trip, adjusting its settings for low light and turning off the flash. Then, I calmly went back to the bedroom door. Standing silently, I took several photos of what was happening on the bed, making sure they didn't see me. They were so caught up in what they were doing, they didn't notice me at all, allowing me to catch this betrayal on camera. Before leaving Jessica's suite, I went through her open briefcase on the table and found a business card from David Price, the lead negotiator at our company. I took the card to keep for later. Back in her room, I hooked up my camera to her laptop using the interface cable I always carry. Our laptops use the same software for photos, so transferring a picture from my camera to her laptop was easy. I made the photo that showed what she was doing the background picture on her laptop, then packed up my camera and quietly left her room. Trying hard to keep my feelings in check and holding back tears, I walked to the elevator, feeling the full weight of her betrayal. I gave back the room key to the front desk and immediately called the airline to check for the earliest flight back to St. Louis. Luckily, there was a flight at 6:30 a.m. that would get me back home by 9:30 a.m. I figured this timing would match up with when Jessica usually starts her day by turning on her laptop at the negotiation table. This moment would mark when she discovered she was caught, effectively signaling the end of our marriage. Afterward, I headed back to the airport and checked into a motel close by. Even though I was too unsettled to sleep, I kept going over the upsetting images from Jessica's hotel room in my head, letting myself cry out all the built-up sadness. By 5 a.m., when I left the motel, I had no more tears left and was determined to end our marriage quickly. Back in St. Louis, my cell phone started ringing as soon as I got in my car. When I saw it was Jessica calling, I decided not to answer and turned off my phone instead. Once I got home, the house phone started ringing, and a quick look showed it was Jessica again. I didn't pick up the phone, letting her message go to voicemail. I heard her say, "John, you need to call me back as soon as you can. It's really important." Without responding to Jessica's upset message, I changed my clothes and went out to get a U-Haul truck. When I got back, I started packing quickly, planning to get everything out before Jessica got back home around 4 p.m. In just a few hours, I moved all my stuff to a storage unit I had rented. Before I started packing, I had made an appointment with our lawyer to talk about getting a divorce. Once everything was in storage, I went straight to the lawyer's office to start the divorce process right away. Though I thought about using cheating as the reason for our divorce, I decided on irreconcilable differences instead, keeping the cheating as a backup in case things got messy. I also told the lawyer to change my will to make my brother the only person who gets anything from me. Then, I went to the bank to move half the money from our shared savings and checking accounts into new ones that were just in my name. I did the same with our investment accounts by talking to my investment advisor. Feeling sad, I drove over to my parents' house with my suitcase and walked in through the front door. My mom was surprised to see me. "John, what's going on?" she asked. "Jessica's been calling here nonstop looking for you. Did you say you'd be here?" I sat down with my dad, who's retired now, and told them everything. They couldn't believe what I said about Jessica cheating and that our marriage was over. I asked my parents if I could stay with them for a while until I found a place with furniture, and they said yes right away. My guess was spot on because around 6 in the evening, just as we were getting ready to eat dinner, someone rang the doorbell. My dad went to open the door and came back with Jessica looking really upset. "John, why haven't you been picking up my calls? I needed to talk to you. All your stuff is gone from our house," she said, her voice shaking. "I thought the note I left on your computer would tell you everything you needed to know," I told her in a calm way. "Oh, no, I was scared it was you who left that note. Can we please go talk somewhere, honey?" Jessica begged. "Jessica, I'm not your honey anymore, and there's nothing left for us to talk about. I've started the process to get a divorce, and if we need to say anything, our lawyers can handle it. Seeing what you did in Denver has completely destroyed any feelings I had for you, and I'd appreciate it if you left so I can enjoy my dinner," I said without hesitation. "Please John, let's not end things without a proper conversation," she begged with desperation. "What excuse could you possibly have for cheating? It wasn't self-defense, that's for sure, especially after what I saw and have proof of," I shot back, standing my ground. You might want to give David, your boyfriend, a heads up that I'm coming for him next. I'm curious what his wife will think of all this," I added. "Oh my God, can't we just talk about this?" "John, please," Jessica begged, her voice full of fear. "Just leave, Jessica. You're making my dinner go cold," I insisted. "But here's a thought. Why don't you take your time and write me a detailed letter explaining why you thought it was okay to break our marriage vows? I'm certain a lawyer as clever as you could come up with a convincing argument that it was all my fault, claiming you still have a lot of love and respect for me." With tears in her eyes, Jessica turned to leave, but then paused and looked back at me. "Please, John, reconsider ending our marriage without us having a real discussion." "Goodbye, Jessica," I stated firmly. After she had gone, tears streaming down her face, my parents sat in silence, shocked by our conversation. "John, that was quite harsh," my mom pointed out. "Mom, would you like to see the pictures I have of her with another man?" "That's the real harsh reality," I responded sharply. "She's shown me complete disrespect, and I can't accept that. I can't ever trust her again." "Do you really want me to have children with someone who acts like that?" "I get it, son," my dad finally said after a moment. "But maybe, after things settle down, you might start to see things a bit differently." "I don't think so, Dad. Can we change the subject and just finish dinner?" I asked, eager to move on from the topic. "Sure, son," my dad responded, though somewhat reluctantly. Jessica's story. Leaving home that Monday morning, I felt a mix of sadness for leaving John and excitement for our future plans to start a family. We had been patient, making sure we were ready both financially and in our careers for this next step. Now, it seemed like everything was aligning perfectly. The flight to Denver was smooth, and I found myself sitting next to David Price, our chief negotiator. We talked briefly about work and then shifted to more personal conversations about our families. David knew about my intention to leave my job once I got pregnant, and he mentioned how much he'd miss working with me when I became a stay-at-home mom. David, at 48 and married for 20 years with teenagers, had been my partner in negotiations well before I got married. We knew each other well and worked smoothly together. The rest of our team sat behind us, caught up in their discussions. When we got to the hotel in Denver, we found out our rooms were next to each other, a setup intended for discussing work late into the night. But about a decade ago, our relationship changed, and we started seeing our time together as a way to unwind from the stresses of work. We told ourselves it wasn't really cheating as it helped us work better. Occasionally, we even joked about it. After being married to John for a few years, I started feeling guilty about my secret meetings with David, so we stopped. But then, during a really tough negotiation, David suggested we start up again to help ease the stress. I hesitantly agreed and found myself pulled back into the affair. The thrill and the danger of it somehow made things more exciting at home with John, which made me feel less guilty. On this trip, David and I didn't meet up the first night because I was too tired, but after a hard day of negotiating the next day, I decided to see him. I don't know how or when John found out, or how he got that picture, but I was completely shocked to see it on my laptop the next morning. David, sitting next to me, quickly closed my laptop and asked for a break in the negotiations. We stepped into the hallway, where he was clearly upset. "Why is there a picture like that on your laptop?" he asked. "I don't know, David. That wasn't there last time I used it," I answered, still in shock. "Let's take another look," he said. We opened the laptop again and looked at the image together. "Oh no, that's you," he said. "Me? How could that be?" I was confused. "I'm not sure, but that's definitely you, and the person under you looks like it could be me, even though you can't see my face. Did you leave your laptop somewhere someone could have taken that picture?" "No, it was with me the whole trip and only in my room or yours. I can't imagine how someone got in to take a photo," I replied. "The door was shut, so I thought it was locked. You've got to go back to the hotel and see if they let anyone into your room last night. I'll stay here and take care of things. Try getting in touch with John to see where he was last night. It's impossible it was him. I talked to him while he was at his parents'. Did you call his parents' landline?" "No, he told me to use his cell phone." "That's worrisome. He could have been anywhere when you called. Hit me up on my cell phone if you find out anything. And try to sort this mess out. Get a taxi to the hotel." "Got it, see you." I was soaked in sweat. If John put that photo on my laptop, it pretty much means we're done. I had to get back to the hotel to figure things out. The person at the desk got me a cab, and I was at the hotel in no time. I went straight to the reception to ask if anyone got into my room. The person working there checked their system and told me a Mr. John Baker was given a key at 9:45 last night, and he gave it back 30 minutes later. That's when it hit me hard that my marriage was probably over. The man I loved more than anything was gone, but I was determined to try and win him back. I went up to my room and immediately tried calling John's cell phone in his office. His phone was off, so I left a voicemail that it was really important for him to call me back. His secretary said he was on a business trip in California and would be back tomorrow. So, he went to California and might have stopped by to surprise me on his way back. Looks like we both ended up being surprised. I called his parents, and they said they hadn't seen him in a few days. I asked them to tell him to call me as soon as they hear from him. I tried calling our house too, but no one answered. I left a message there as well, hoping he'd call back soon. Sitting alone in the room, I couldn't stop crying. With no other way to reach him, I quickly booked the next flight back to St. Louis. After packing up, I called David on my phone to tell him what was going on. He was silent for a moment before saying, "Jessica, it looks like we might both be facing divorces, or maybe something even worse." Worse than a divorce? What could that be? Our company has strict rules against managers dating. If word gets out, we could both lose our jobs. It wouldn't be good for either of our careers. Oh no, I didn't think about that. Losing John already feels like the world is ending. Losing my job on top of that would be too much. But right now, I need to go back to St. Louis and try to talk to John. Maybe there's a chance to fix things. I've got a flight leaving at noon and I'll be back in St. Louis by 4:30. I have to find him and talk. I'll let you know how it goes. I have to stay here until we finish our business talks. I'll be waiting to hear from you. After saying goodbye, I grabbed my things and hurried to the lobby, checked out, and took the hotel's limo to the airport. On the flight back to St. Louis, all I could do was hope that I could get John to talk to me. I wanted to make it clear that what happened was just physical and didn't mean anything emotionally. I hoped he would be able to see my cheating as just a one-time thing without feelings attached. When I got back home, everything looked normal at first. But when I went into our bedroom and saw his clothes and stuff were gone, I realized he knew and had left me. I needed to find him. After trying to call him many times and not getting through, I decided to go to his parents' place to see if I could find out where he was or get any information from them. Seeing him at his parents' house was really tough. He was so cold and distant, it made me feel sick. He told me straight up he was going to divorce me and didn't care at all about what I had to say. Nothing would change his mind. When he told me to write a letter explaining my side, it just felt like he was twisting the knife. I had to leave and go cry in my car. The future we planned together was falling apart. We wouldn't have the family we wanted, grow old together, or enjoy grandchildren. In the middle of feeling so low, I also worried selfishly that I might be too old to have kids by the time I found someone new. Eventually, I found the energy to start the car and head back to what felt like an empty house, overwhelmed by a deep feeling of loss and not knowing what comes next. John goes on with his story. After a restless night haunted by images of Jessica and David together, I got up early and went downstairs at my parents' place to make some coffee. Feeling down, I grabbed my laptop and camera, ready to go through the photos on the camera. I was obsessed with finding David in those photos. As I looked through the pictures, I couldn't make out David's face clearly. But I kept looking and finally noticed something on his right arm as he reached out to Jessica. When I zoomed in, I saw what I was looking for, a tattoo. Zooming in more, I saw a heart tattoo with Janie 8 written inside it. Janie 8 is David's wife's name. With this proof, I went back upstairs, took a shower, and got ready for work. By the time I came back down, my mom was busy making breakfast. At work, I immediately made a few CDs with the photos showing the affair and a close-up of David's tattoo. I also printed out several copies and put everything in a folder. Feeling determined, I went straight to the HR department to talk to the manager, Chad. We knew each other from working at the same small company and even played golf together once. I laid out the photos in front of him and waited for him to react. "What's this, John? 30 pictures?" Chad looked both curious and amused. "Sorry, Chad, it looks wrong, but that's my wife and David Price." The photos were taken on Tuesday night in David's hotel room in Denver, as you can tell by the date and time on them. They were on a business trip for negotiations for our company. "Oh, no, John. That's tough to hear. What's your plan?" "You could fire them both for breaking the no dating rule in their job contracts. We've never actually done that before. Are you sure you want to go through with it? It'll make the affair public. And are you thinking of divorcing Jessica?" "I've already told my lawyer to start working on the divorce papers, but if the company doesn't do anything, I'll have to sue the company." "All right, John, I'll talk to our legal team and get things started." Then, I went to tell my boss, Hubert, about what was going on in my personal life. He was really surprised and worried when he heard about my wife and David Price. I asked for the rest of the week off as vacation, and he agreed without hesitation. Before we said goodbye, he praised me for my work on the California trip. He told me the customer was really happy with how quickly I solved their problem and got their production line running again. He also mentioned the possibility of me taking over the California area because the current engineer is retiring for health reasons. I said I'd think about it and let him know my decision next week. When I was leaving Hubert's office, his secretary, Lucy, stopped me. "John, your wife came by looking for you. She said she'd come back later." "Lucy, I don't want to see my wife at all. Please tell her that if she comes back." "Oh, John, I'm so sorry. I didn't know there was a problem." "There's a big problem, Lucy. We're getting a divorce. She and David Price have been cheating. I figured everyone at work would know by lunchtime since Lucy loves to chat." When I got back to my desk, I called David's wife, Janet. We've seen each other at work events, but telling her about our partners was going to be tough. "Janet, it's John Baker. How are you? I'm okay, John. David said you might call, but didn't say why. Janet, we need to talk. Is now a good time? Sure, John. I have to go to the hairdresser at 1, but I'm free now. You know where I live, right? Yes, I do. I'll be there in 15 minutes. When I got to the prices, I was nervous about what I had to do. I couldn't let David get off easy and leave Jessica to deal with everything. Hi, John. Come in. Do you want some coffee? I just made it, Janet said, welcoming me and pointing to the living room. Sure thing, Janet. Just plain black, please, I said. After a short while, she came back with a coffee and sat down across from me. So, what's up? She asked. I thought about breaking it to you gently, but decided to just be direct. I need to tell you something tough, I said, wanting to get it done. Janet, I saw your husband and my wife together in Denver. I'm divorcing Jessica and getting them fired from their jobs. I hate being the one to break this news, but it's going public soon, and I wanted to give you a heads up. I have photos if you want proof. I watched her closely for a reaction, but she didn't show much emotion. John, I've had suspicions about David's behavior on his business trips for a while now, though I hope they weren't true, she admitted. David has always been a loving husband and dad, and I didn't want to think about the possibility. But I realized that sooner or later, their affair would come out into the open. I guess this is it. I'm really sorry for what you're dealing with in your marriage and from my own side too. I feel bad for what might happen to David. He's at an age where finding another job with the same pay could be tough. Now, I've got to figure out what to do next. Would you like a copy of the pictures I have? I asked. Yes, please leave them. I'll find the courage to look at them, Janet replied quietly. I'm truly sorry, Janet. I couldn't ignore this. Jessica and I were close to starting a family, but I can't see a future with someone I can't trust or respect. The mother of our kids needs both of those things, I explained, my voice heavy with sadness. I get it, John. Thanks for being straight with me. I'd rather hear it from you first, and I want to say again how sorry I am about what's happening with Jessica. I'm sure she feels awful too, and David will when he finds out I know about their affair. I just wish it was a one-time thing. It'd be easier to forgive. But I think it's been happening for years, and that's hard to take now that it's out there. I've got my pride, and I need to keep my head up, Janet said, her voice sounding both sad and determined. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know, I said genuinely as I got ready to leave and head back to my parents' place. Epilogue. It's been 6 months since I started the divorce process. This morning, I got the final papers, officially ending my marriage to Jessica. I hadn't talked to her or seen her since the day she came to my parents' place. My lawyer handled everything. In the divorce deal, I gave up the house, which had a big mortgage, along with all the furniture and stuff I'd bought on credit, just to cut ties with her completely. I also got my name taken off the mortgage, so she was on the hook for all the payments. Without my steady income, she had to sell the house, and she took a big hit financially. At first, she tried to fight the divorce, but I gave her an ultimatum: sign the papers in 48 hours or I'd change the reason for the divorce to cheating and put the pictures of her and David online. Under the pressure, she agreed within the time limit, and that's why I'm a free man now. It seems like she realized she didn't want me that much after all. Even though Jessica lost her job because of what happened, she's a smart lawyer and managed to land a new job within a month. It might not pay as much or have the same perks as her old one, but I've heard she's getting by and has even started dating again. Good luck to her new boyfriend, whoever he is. I can't help but wonder if she's told him about our divorce and why it happened. Maybe I should tell him myself. Janet divorced David and left him struggling financially. Even though he got fired, he found a new job. But his new salary makes it hard for him to keep up with alimony and child support. As for me, I've settled in Santa Maria, California, a peaceful coastal town halfway between the Bay Area and Los Angeles. This place lets me easily get to both the northern and southern parts of the state. I moved here about 4 months ago and now live in an apartment building full of singles and young couples, many of whom are saving money to buy a house. The cost of housing here is high, making it expensive to get into the market. I've also found companionship with a woman who lives in the same building. Like me, she's been through a divorce, but we've found comfort and compatibility with each other. We're taking things slow, seeing if there's a future for us together. Since I travel a lot for work, trust is really important in any relationship, especially if we think about having kids someday. The ticking of biological clocks reminds me that time doesn't wait for anyone, so I'm thinking about making a move sooner rather than later.